But John, I wanted to ask you, because you're going to be on the call no matter what. Like, do you go into these games like when he's at 893? Do you already kind of have it planned out, or do you just let it come out of your mouth?
I think it's more the second one, if I'm being honest. But I think
Okay.
you don't know how the moment's going to happen. So, I mean, to me, the symmetry, like if you could plan it, I think it would be really neat. I want to see it at home, but you've got that home and home with Columbus. If he did it against the Jackets, you're doing
Yeah.
it against the same team you got goal number one against. And for the guys, and I always think too of the other guys like Steve Mears and Bob McGilligan in Columbus, or Carolina, Mike Maniscalco and Trip Tracy. Like, there's going to be a visiting call too, that
Yeah.
just the luck of the dice that get thrown here, and it's bigger than a win and a loss in a regular season game. It's about getting a chance to call history, and it is one of the great things about radio is that we're always there. We call the Stanley Cup, we call Kuznetsov in 2018, all of those, which were a real treat. And that's another one. That's probably the best example for me, is that you can't script anything because you have to be able to come up with the right words at the right time. And if it's too planned, it doesn't sound authentic.
The
And
demons
that's
have
just my
been
personal belief.
exorcised.
Right. I mean, but how it happens, right, is it's an overtime. Like
Sure.
if the Caps
Sure.
win that game 5-1, it's not that call, right? So, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot that goes into it. But I think for anybody that calls anything, if you're one that likes to plan, it doesn't mean that it's, if somebody else thinks that's better, that's okay. But my philosophy has always been trust yourself to be able to capture it with the right words at the right time, with the right enthusiasm, and look forward to whenever that happens to throwing that out to the world as well.
So just for the record, when do you think he's going to do it?
I just feel like it's going to be Columbus. I don't know if it's at
Okay.
Nationwide or if it's going to be at home, but
Okay.
I feel like you got a back-to-back sitting there in April. There's 2 shots at it against the Jackets.
Yeah.
Gretzky did the same. It feels like that's the inevitable part. It's about pacing. It's about right too. So,
Sure.
listen, I wanted to be at home. I want to be in the home booth. I want to be around our fans. I want that to happen in our building. I think everyone wants that. We don't necessarily get to pick that, as you said. It happens when it happens, but hopefully that's the time, and I can't wait. And it's history. We all get to have a piece of it, and I can't wait to be a small part of it.
I get goosebumps just thinking of it because, I mean, we're just so close now. We're so close. We've been talking about this for
I mean,
years,
it's going to
and now
happen,
we're
right?
9
That's
away.
the crazy.
Yeah.
We how many interviews have we done over the years where all the people is like, oh, do you think he can get there? And 5 years
Yeah.
ago, it's like, well, listen, it's good health, and it's he's got to keep producing. And by the time that Gretzky was 38, he only scored 9 goals that whole season. I mean, that's what makes it so miraculous for Alex is he's older now than when Gretzky called it a career, and Gretzky at the end didn't score. I was at Gretzky's. I was at 894 on an absolute fluke in New York. They were
What?
playing the
Tell me this
Islanders.
story.
I was in attendance for 894. I was working for Cincinnati in the AHL, and we were in New Haven,
Okay.
Connecticut, playing a game. And our assistant coach Eddie Johnstone was a former Ranger. We took Metro North in for the
Okay.
game. I was with Sam Rosen, John Davidson, Gary Thorne, Bill Clement upstairs in the old press box at MSG, and he scored in the third period in that game against the Islanders. And 3-4 days later, we didn't think anything of it at the time because he hadn't announced his retirement yet. A week later, he did. And Eddie and I were like, hey, listen, if he doesn't score again, like, we might have seen the last one. And he didn't. He played his last game in Canada in Ottawa. He didn't score. He played his last home game, didn't score. He never scored again. I was actually in the building. I don't know. It's probably a short list of people who were in the building for 894 and Gretzky and for Ovechkin 895. I will be
Yeah.
on it, bar unless I get hit by a Metro bus. I should be there. So looking forward to it and can't wait. Nice to those 2 pieces of hockey history are pretty great.